It's time. Welcome to DGT Live. I'm John. Last minute scratch. And I'm not going to say we're better for it because, well, no, but Zuby, he jumped up and we're talking MCU people. So this is going to be an awesome show, or it's going to be a DGT Live show. And I don't know if it's awesome or not. So yeah, we're talking Phase 1. This is our first installment of our Road to Infinity series. So that is, and tell me if I'm wrong, Iron Man, Iron Man 2, Captain America, The Incredible Hulk, Avengers, and Thor 1. Did I miss anything?
Not in that order, but yes.
Right.
Yeah.
Hells yeah. All right. Well, as normal, I brought a special guest. I might have been the only one that did that today, but I brought the Black Raven Second Sight Scotch Ale. So I am going to confess I'm not the biggest fan of Scotch type ales. So this, it's Black Raven. The Black Raven it still holds the title for being the only 5.0 perfect rated beer on DGT Live at all. So even though I don't like the style, I am super excited to be drinking Black Raven again. And my boy Christian from Northwest Beverage sampled me out this bottle. So thank you, Mr. Christian, for doing that as well. You guys drinking anything tonight?
I'm drinking some H2O.
Ooh.
Yeah.
Ooh, I think I may have to one-up you there, Tony. I'm drinking some purified H2O.
Oh! Shots fired from Florida.
Yep. I don't drink any of that spring water crap.
Man, I thought you guys were going to get along.
No, this
right,
was
well,
very last minute. I've got some IPAs that I have on ice, but this was very last minute. So
thanks for that, by the way. Oh, you're solid, bro.
no problem.
I'm just gonna dive into this guy. You guys, yeah. Zuby. Everyone, if you don't follow Magic with Zuby, it's one of the premier Magic the Gathering podcasts. You also have some other kind of nerd culture on, or did, right? You brought VCR gaming back.
Yeah, my buddy Matt and I are trying to bring that back. We're trying to do either a weekly or bi-weekly live podcast show, similar to what you're doing here, just talking about video games.
Excellent. Well, hey, you got two potential guests if you'll have us, right? I know, Tony, you do quite a bit of gaming stuff.
Yes, we do.
That's awesome. Yeah, definitely.
It'll be fun.
Right there on Rad Entertainment.
Yes. Plug. Rad Entertainment.
Plug, drinking beer and plug. All right. Our shows, movies, actually. So it all started with X-Men, in my opinion. That was like the first great superhero movies, not, on the Marvel side. We're not talking seeing Batman. And this is all debatable as well. But, X-Men to me in the early, I think X-Men 1 came out in 2000. That was what kind of the comic book movie landscape to today. And then that kind of, in my opinion, paved the way to get Iron Man out of development hell, which it was in for almost a decade, onto the big screen from Mr. Jon Favreau. And he directed a couple of these, and he's gone on to do some incredible things. So the first Iron Man, what were you guys thinking while you were in the theater seeing, freaking Iron Man for the first time on the silver screen?
I guess I'll talk about it first. So just to preface this, when it comes to my comic book fandom, I guess I'm definitely more DC than Marvel. My favorite Marvel superhero has always been Spider-Man, and that was before the Sam Raimi movies. And so I can remember as a kid not giving two craps about Iron Man. I feel like none of my friends even liked Iron Man because it's people rather like Wolverine or Spider-Man or anything like that. So when this movie first came out, it was really just more of a holy crap, they made Iron Man cool. And Robert Downey Jr. actually, was able to bring Tony Stark to life and actually make him an enjoyable, likable character for once.
Yeah. Tony?
Well, okay, back in 2008, right? This movie came out. I was as into pop culture and like looking up movies and things that are coming out, and before they're coming out, just kind of like stuff we do today. But now I feel like that's a common thing for people to do to keep up to date with the movies that are coming out. So then when Iron Man was releasing, I knew that this was the first movie and the start of what was going to be like they were leading up to the Avengers. As long as things went well and they made money, this was going to go, towards the Avengers. So Iron Man wasn't necessarily one of my favorite superheroes growing up or anything. I was a huge Marvel fan though, and I was really big into Spider-Man, especially like the 90s animated TV series. And Iron Man was a regular guest on that. And so I was very familiar with the character, and I'm a big comic book fan. So I've read a lot of Iron Man. I've read a lot of things that Iron Man was in, but I was never one to pick up just an Iron Man comic. But I knew a lot about the character, and I knew that Robert Downey Jr. was like the perfect casting, and I was just so excited to see it. I actually saw this movie at our local drive-in theater, and I'm so glad that I did, because this movie also spawned the post-credits scene, which is super popular now. And because I was at the drive-in, it was a double feature. So it was like Iron Man and then something else played after it. And so you had to sit and watch through the credits. So I didn't miss the after credit scene, the very first after credit scene, which announced the whole Avengers initiative. So it just blew my mind. And I was, over the moon, just super thrilled. And none of my friends knew what the hell any of it was about.
Tony brings up a really good point about Iron Man being, he was always a part of other shows and series, and he just didn't really stand alone very well on his own until this movie even came out. Because like I said, I didn't really care about Iron Man. Yeah, you'd see him in the cartoons or comics and just be like, he just never had that powerful presence.
He was, yes, very much a B-list character in the Marvel universe, which is crazy to even think about nowadays, because there's not a single kid on this, in the like, that doesn't know who Iron Man is. And at the time, it was like nobody knew who Iron Man was before that movie.
Yeah.
And that's all the Avengers, right? Like no one. It was like,
I would say Captain America was still pretty popular, and
Hulk.
and the Hulk, and that's pretty much it.
No one cared about Thor. No one cared about. Yeah, Iron Man was always way in the background, and it was more so like we had the X-Men animated series, and we had the Spider-Man animated series, and like you said, Spider-Man was still huge, and I want to say, the Sam Raimi Spider-Mans definitely came out before Iron Man 1, right?
Yeah.
So it was like, it was the dawn, right? It was like, okay, we could see these things happening, but this was the one that came from Marvel. This was after the deal, and Kevin Feige was the producer on this movie, and that's probably what kind of jump started him, right?
Right. And weird little side note, this is considered the first Marvel Studios film, but it's not. The first Marvel Studios film was actually Punisher Warzone, which is not part of the MCU or anything, and it was just this little side movie, which is a movie that I totally love, and we could debate that all you want, but some people hate that movie. I love that movie. But Punisher Warzone had come out just like the year previous, or maybe 2 years previous. So when I knew it was like Marvel Studios making it, I was really excited about it. And Jon Favreau's awesome. So like there were a lot of things going into the movie that made me excited to see it. And then, like, I don't know, man, just the fact that Robert Downey Jr. was a guy growing up, that, people our age knew all of his struggles, with, alcohol and his party lifestyle and all this stuff. So like to see him play Tony Stark, if you were familiar at all with the character, you were like, wow, is this typecasting or is this just perfect casting? I don't know. But he also had to fight for the role. He was like, I think he had to go in there like 3 different times to audition, because they just weren't sure whether or not they trusted him with the character. It took him kind of fighting for it, and it took Jon Favreau sticking up for him, like against the studio, saying we need, like, he's the perfect guy. So,
which is crazy, because Jon Favreau before that, his only directing credits was The Thura, which was a mess, Elf, which was pretty great, and Made, which is kind of like Swingers too. So even Marvel, a franchise like this, for the first movie, it hinged a lot. They took a big chunk on Jon Favreau directing, what would become the spark that ignited. And this movie wasn't without its flaws either. And it had, even some casting things. And, I don't know if Terrence Howard is kicking himself in the ass now for not keeping the role of War Machine. But, there was a lot of stuff that happened with this production, but they handled it just so well. And just, they nailed the effects. And even to this day, like, I didn't watch it. I watched it a couple months ago, but it still holds up to today's standards of the other MCU movies.
Definitely, but the one thing that it does do is it starts the Marvel formula. So, like, this is a movie that was like, okay, here we go. We have this design of a film, and this is what's going to work. So this spawned kind of that, which is something that I don't like about the MCU, and that's that for the most part, every character introduction, the hero fights pretty much a mirror of himself. So in this movie, Iron Man just kind of fights a giant Iron Man, and also starts and you have Jeff Bridges playing the villain Obadiah, and Jeff Bridges is a fantastic actor, but Obadiah is kind of just a lame one-off villain, which also is what Marvel doesn't do well. For the majority of their villains are just kind of lame, just one-off villains. So it did a great thing when it comes to starting the MCU, but it also created the formula that is also kind of the one thing that still bothers me about the way that they're made. But they are starting to break that mold here and there. Then those movies stick out, and we'll talk about those when we get there.
Yeah, like you mentioned, the Marvel with the villains is just something that just, and then conversely, that's what DC nails so well is villains. Sometimes not so much with the heroes, but Marvel does just, villains are just so hard, unless we're talking about Magneto and stuff like that. But that's kind of outside of the MCU. And Jeff Bridges was fantastic in this role. He had a pretty nuanced little thing, because he was this kind of dirtbag. It was almost like, just watching it now, and it kind of seems like a weird comparison, but it Zuby, did you watch The Punisher, the series, the Netflix series?
I've only seen the first episode, and that could be a whole nother thing. I couldn't get into it.
Oh, okay. Well, I won't talk spoilers then. But the villain in Obadiah was a little bit runs parallel with one of the villains of the Punisher series, where you kind of have to play that kind of good bad guy. And I always like that if it's done well, and I thought it was done perfectly. Unfortunately, we're not going to see his character anytime soon.
No, and you guys bring up a good point about the villains, and that's one of the things that I feel is the weakness of Marvel, is not just the villains, but they have good villains when it's in comic form, because they have that time to be able to elaborate on their characteristics and their story and all that. I mean, good example, I know skipping ahead a little bit, but Iron Man 3 with the oh my god, I'm drawing a blank. Mandarin. Yes, I was about to say Mandalorian.
Wrong series.
yeah. With the Mandarin, because he was supposed to be one of Tony Stark's, arch nemesis.
And they ruined him. They ruined him.
Oh yeah, they did. But that's just one of the weaknesses of this movies, is they have a really awesome, interesting villain that you remember from the comics, and they just sort of be like, here you go. Here's 5 minutes of him, and then he's gone.
Yeah. All right. Well, let's move on to. We got a lot of movies to cover, so we're just gonna kind of jump to the next one. So technically in the timeline, we had, did it go right to Iron Man 2?
No, it's The Incredible Hulk came out a month later.
Sweet. And Incredible Hulk, I don't know, out of Phase 1, it's probably one of my favorite ones, and it really is. Like, I love Tim Roth's Abomination. I love me some Jennifer Connelly, but that's just young John's lifelong crush from Labyrinth.
Jennifer Connelly's not in this one.
Yeah, I was about to say.
No, she was in the Ang Lee. Wait a minute, who was
Liv Tyler?
Liv Tyler, Armageddon Girl.
Oh, Horseface. Never mind. Fuck her. I don't like her.
Wrong movie.
Jennifer Connelly was the best thing about the Ang Lee movie then, and that was Eric Bana. I kept trying to put him in Alien Covenant in our review last week.
Yeah, you just keep trying to bring Eric Bana into the show. It's not happening.
I thought Eric Banner was Iron Man. But no, the Incredible Hulk was great, and Edward Norton's portrayal of Bruce Banner. I mean, you put Edward Norton in everything except the Italian Job, and it.
Hey, Edward Norton's great in the Italian Job. That
movie. That movie's awesome. I enjoyed that movie.
Really? Oh, well, maybe it's just me then. I thoroughly
it's just you.
Dislike the Italian Job.
The Italian Job dislikes you.
Yeah. All right. Who wants to Tony, kick us off with the Incredible Hulk?
All right. Well, here's the thing about the Incredible Hulk is that as much as I love Edward Norton, I love Tim Roth, William Hurt, like it's a great cast. The movie itself is actually, seeing it in theaters, I loved it and was like, cool. They did the Hulk, they did it right. The Abomination fight at the end I thought was really cool. There were some things that they teased in the film that never came to fruition, which I was fine with. I was fine with because they just couldn't do it. They're tied because Universal actually owns the rights to the Hulk, so they can't actually do another Hulk movie without giving Universal a lot of money. So that's why the Hulk is the Hulk's just they can use the character, but they can't do a standalone Hulk movie, which is why Thor Ragnarok wasn't called Planet Hulk. It was called Thor Ragnarok, was because they can't do a Planet Hulk movie. But so they set up a bunch of things through Universal to do kind of a spin-off movies, and there's just a bunch of Easter eggs in the film that don't work now because they didn't do anything with them. And then also the movie as a whole, watching it now, I don't think that it holds up to the standards that MCU currently sets, where I think Iron Man still does. I don't think that the Incredible Hulk necessarily...
You're talking visually and effects-wise?
Visually and effects-wise. I mean, it looks good, but they've just changed their style around so much. And I think that just writing-wise, I don't think that the story itself holds up to what they've been doing lately as much as some of the other movies might hold up. And I love Edward Norton's Hulk, but
Mark
Ruffalo's Hulk is just, oh man, I was so sad when they recasted Edward Norton. Yeah. But when Mark Ruffalo was on screen, I was just like, and perfect. Like I take it all away. It's fine.
I mean, you're not wrong, but they could have given Mark Ruffalo anything and it would have been fine.
This is true. This is true.
Yeah. Now, the Incredible Hulk for me, when it first came out, I mean, all we had before was the Ang Lee one from 2003
with Jennifer Connelly.
Yeah, Jennifer Connelly, who's probably the only good thing about that movie.
Oh yeah.
Hey, Eric Banner's pretty cool.
I was just not a fan of that movie, and I feel like they kind of ruined the Hulk. I mean, him being able to, jump and fly around, that just...
Hey, he does that in the comics, though.
I know, but it didn't portray very well from when they showed it.
I didn't mind it, but yeah.
So I was, like Tony was saying, when this first came out, I was super excited to watch it. I loved it. But I agree, it doesn't hold up as well today, because my wife and I just last year went through every single Marvel movie up until, was it Thor Ragnarok, right before Thor came out. And this is the one that we were probably the most bored in out of all of them. And because it's a lot of the pacing of it, it feels very off when you compare it to the other Marvel movies nowadays.
I like the tension of it, though. I like the tension with the whole watch thing, and I know a lot of people complain that they kind of overdid that, but I like that he's constantly has to kind of keep in this middle, like, sweet spot zone of emotions, whether it be pissed off or even too excited, which I wouldn't have any trouble being with Liv Tyler. But
I did enjoy that. I like that part of it, and I was a little sad when they had Mark Ruffalo and they didn't even really do anything with that. But watching it now that what the character is going to be like ahead of time, you're just sort of like, this is kind of dumb now,
right?
But to their credit, they didn't throw away completely. They didn't just like move on from that, obviously because William Hurt's character, but also just because like when we are introduced to the Hulk in Avengers, he's kind of sitting in that hut, and that's where Black Widow, Scarlett Johansson's character finds him. So they do tie it in. Yeah, it's not very much, and they kind of go. And Mark Ruffalo, like Tony said, Mark Ruffalo's Hulk it's so good that you forget how much you miss Edward Norton.
Yeah.
It's two completely different Bruce Banners. Mark Ruffalo as Bruce Banner is a little bit comedic, but he also does have that he could go that tortured side where Edward Norton didn't really have that comedic side.
No, I think that Edward Norton's character played very heavily off of the TV series Hulk. Like the tone of it too. I felt like the overall tone of the movie was very much like they were trying to play into kind of the older generation of people who were fans of the TV series. Just like the traveling guy, like the traveling wanderer kind of Hulk.
Which they were missing the music though for it.
Right. Yeah. But I feel like that's what they were kind of going for with the movie, which is fine for the time. But now, just when you rewatch it, I just don't think it holds up. But the cool thing about it ensured the Avengers thing, because the after credits scene in that one is Tony Stark talking with William Hurt.
Oh, saying, that's
right.
General Thunderbolt, right?
Yeah, General Ross. He's not Thunderbolt technically in this movie yet, but they tell they're putting together, and I think that like I just remember just watching it, it's just me with all my friends who aren't nerds and just being like, yes, they're doing it. It's actually happening. It's really happening. They're like, what's happening? I'm like, they're all going to be on the screen together. All of them. Nobody cares.
No, but everyone cared at the time, though. Are you kidding me? Like, that's all everyone talked about. We're just like, oh, fucking Iron Man was amazing. And then Hulk was okay. And they're going to put them all together. And then who are they going to cast for Captain America? And that just like started the spark. It went nuts.
Yeah. So we want to segue into Iron Man 2?
Yes, please.
Yeah.
So, Zuby, you want to start us off with Iron Man 2? What were your initial thoughts?
Oh, man. See, it's hard to remember some of this because I definitely remember Iron Man 1 and Incredible Hulk, coming out, and then trying to remember Iron Man 2 because I know I saw it in theaters, and I remember liking the movie. It felt like it was more of a fun movie. We didn't have to deal with the origin story that you felt like it took up way too much time in Iron Man 1, looking back at it. But I just felt like this movie really suffered from a really weak villain. And even understanding the motives of the villain within the movie of Ivan Vanko. I've seen this movie more than 5 times, and I still have trouble even understanding why Ivan Vanko wants to destroy Tony Stark. It definitely took me a few watches to even understand what the hell's even going on with that part, at least.
Yeah, they set it up in the beginning of the movie. It's like his dad worked for him and then died, or worked for the Stark company. I don't know. It's really like his dad died. But Stark, he's blaming it on Stark. Motives terrible. But like Mickey Rourke is awesome, and when he got cast as Whiplash, I was like, dude, this is gonna be awesome. And when they're on the racetrack and he actually pulls out the whips and he's like smacking through the like hitting the cars and stuff, that was amazing. And I was just like, yes, this character is awesome. And the movie introduces Scarlett Johansson, like introduces Black Widow. She's Tony Stark's
assistant or something.
Assistant, yeah. And it's like, but she works for S.H.I.E.L.D. And it's also, this is, I think, where the first time that S.H.I.E.L.D. is introduced.
Yes.
Because what's his name? This is the first time his character is introduced.
Samuel L. Jackson.
No, not Samuel L. Jackson. Agent Coulson.
Oh, right.
Was this the first one?
Yeah, it's the first one with Agent Coulson.
Yeah, this was the first Agent Coulson.
Yeah. He's, explaining that they're from the whatever, I forget what S.H.I.E.L.D. stands for, but it's a great joke. Like when he said it the first time, I was like, oh no, is that S.H.I.E.L.D.? I
Strategic Homeland something.
Yeah. It's great. It's great.
Am I wrong? Where isn't this Samuel L. Jackson's first Nick Fury too? Because that's
the after credit scene of Iron Man 1.
Okay. Well, main movie because he catches him on the donut, right?
Right. Yeah, he has a cameo in this one. Like he has a more full cameo in this one. Yeah. But the problem that this movie suffers from is that the villain sucks. Like Whiplash is awesome, But once they put him in an Iron Man suit, you're like, why in the hell is he in an Iron Man suit again? Like, why does Iron Man have to keep fighting other Iron Men?
Yeah.
And Sam Rockwell is awesome as Justin Hammer, and I loved his whole rival tech company stuff. Like, but the movie just falls apart. It has a great like overarching story. Like, it's cool. Like the stuff that they do in it, there's like got a bunch of great moments. But the more that you get into the movie, the more it just starts to fall apart faster and faster and faster. And the end is just really dumb, but you do get a really cool shot of Iron Man and War Machine standing back to back, like just shooting all those robots, which was pretty awesome. And Don Cheadle as War Machine is great. Like I prefer Don Cheadle over Terrence Howard.
Absolutely. Yeah. And I'll argue that I thought that this movie had one of the strongest villains, but I'm not talking about Whiplash, because Whiplash, even in the comic, is just like, he's B-list kind of, you beat him up to get to the main boss. He's like the pre-boss. But freaking, I mean, the main villain is Justin Hammer, and Sam Rockwell fucking killed it in this movie. I thought he was fantastic. I love that character, and I love that they kept his like lore alive in the Netflix series in Luke Cage, where they're referencing Hammer Tech and stuff like that. I thought like Sam Rockwell up the role of Justin Hammer, and another person that ate up the role, which is very underrated, is Gary Shandling as Senator Stern. Unfortunately, he passed, so we'll never get any more Gary Shandling. But his interactions with Robert Downey Jr. were so fucking hilarious that I have very different movie, just because my oldest kid at the time was just kind of getting to where she started liking these movies, and so we basically had Iron Man 2 on repeat. So I don't know if it's just like burned in my brain, but I enjoy the hell out of Iron Man 2. There's definitely some flaws, but even the climax, it's just him fighting more versions of Iron Man. I like the whole different kind of suits where they just turn out to be, like remote control cars. And I like the scene where they're all just like coming out of the floor, and it's the different military factions. I thought if you're going to do that, it was fine. You did it in a cool way. And Don Cheadle, it was such a better choice for War Machine than Terrence Howard was. And I love Terrence Howard. I mean, hustle and flow all the way, baby. But
what do you feel about the drunk Tony Stark scene where he's like in the Iron Man suit and all that?
I thought it was entertaining as hell. I liked it.
That's the party, right, that he has, and he ends up like him and Don Cheadle start fighting, right?
Right.
Mm-hmm. Was that this? Okay.
Yeah. I didn't care for the scene, but it fits in his character, so I allow it. Like, I'm okay with it because it fits in like Tony Stark's character, but there's something about the scene that just never sat right with me.
He's that much of an asshole to be like, I am Tony Stark, so I built this suit, so I am in complete control, even if I'm 100% sauced, and I'm gonna bring this basically nuclear warhead down to a party and just like shoot plates. Like, I just think it's hilarious.
Yeah. I don't know. When you put it that way.
Yeah, go watch it again. Like it's probably just because I was forced to, but at least I was forced to watch Iron Man 2 and Finding Nemo just like over and over and over again. I can't say I was pissed. I mean, they're good movies.
When Iron Man 2 was announced, I was actually annoyed just when it was announced, because I was annoyed that they were making a sequel because the first one made so much money, because all I wanted to see was the Avengers on screen really bad. And I was like, this is just one more movie in my way.
All right. So Iron Man 2, Zuby, any last thoughts?
I feel like out of the 3 Iron Man movies we have, it's definitely the weakest one, in my opinion. I mean, it's enjoyable. I mean, it's fun for what it is, but definitely not one of my favorites.
Yeah, I would agree. All
right, Tony, what's up next on the docket?
Up next is Captain America.
All right, this is where John.
Thor. It's Thor. Yeah. It's Thor.
Oh, Thor. Okay. All right. Thor. Sorry. Oh, spoiler for what I feel about Captain America 1. Thor was all right. Thor was like DOA. Thor had a lot to do because no one gave a shit about Thor. Like you guys said, no one. I mean, no one did. Like, people didn't care about Iron Man back in the day. No one cared about Thor.
He was a terrible, boring character.
He is. He's like Superman, kind of, but even worse because he's just like this god, and he's like the cheat code in Contra. Like, yeah, you can beat the game faster. Who cares? But he's uninteresting. When they cast Chris Hemsworth, I'm like, oh god, like. But you know, we did get some great things. Unfortunately, Idris Elba was cast in this movie because now he can never have a cooler role in the MCU. And Tom Hiddleston, man, talk about a diamond in the rough. All right, go ahead.
All right, go ahead.
Someone else talking about Thor.
This is like my out of Phase 1. This is my least favorite movie. I am not a fan of the Thor franchise, like at all. Like out of any of the movies, like I mean, Thor Ragnarok was okay, but we'll talk about that when we get there. But Thor's my weakest link. But I know people who love this movie and are huge fans of Thor. I had friends at the time who were actually big into the Thor comics, so they were actually like excited to see the movie and were let down by the film. But I also have like I have friends and I own a comic book store. Like, I mean, I've people love Thor, and I get why they love the character. Like Chris Hemsworth's Thor is very, you know, charismatic. He's, I mean, you know, like when he's drinking the beers, he's like, "I'll have another," and he like slams his like.
Well, now he is. He wasn't.
They've got some funny moments in the film. This also introduces Hawkeye in a short sequence, which is kind of cool. Which is actually probably my favorite sequence of the whole movie, with Thor running into the Shield base. To get his hammer back, and then he can't pick it up. Like, that's probably the best scene in the movie. Loki being the villain and being introduced into this is it's the first MCU villain that's worth a shit, which is pretty great. But at the end of the movie, he doesn't really fight Loki. He fights a giant metal robot thing in the middle of a desert, where you can tell that they didn't really have a whole lot of budget. So like, we're gonna shoot this thing in like a desert, so that way we don't have to like blow up any buildings or nothing. We'll just shoot it out here. We'll just CG it. Like, he doesn't even know what he's acting to. It sucks. Like, the end of the movie is just garbage.
But again, Agent Coulson is fucking fantastic.
Yeah, but Agent Coulson's great.
And they had such a huge cast in this because they had to cast Asgard, and we're not talking like just cast anyone. We had, you know, Anthony Hopkins as Odin. Yeah. His little band of merry men are kind of a bunch of TVs. Not saying anything wrong. They're just they're not big name actors. But then you go to
but you got Ray Stevenson, who played Punisher in Punisher Warzone, as one of his men of dudes, which is awesome. But and the Skarsgård guy is awesome too. Like, the cast for this movie is actually really great, and Natalie Portman's awesome.
Natalie Portman's fine.
Like, I like Natalie Portman as an actress. She's just not very great in this movie. She's just not given anything to do. She's like, they're just like, just swoon over him, just the whole time.
Pretty much.
And then there's Kat Denning too.
Yeah.
Why? No. Don't talk bad about my girl Kat Dennings.
Oh, we have a Kat Denning apologist. Zuby, defend your woman.
Well, I mean, in the movie she's terrible, but just her as a person, you know, like, you got to give it to her. She's my girl. All right.
She has huge tracts of land.
It's about family. All right.
It's about family.
No, when Thor came out, I definitely enjoyed it more than Incredible Hulk, because like you said before, it was, no one gave two shits about Thor. Like, he was a B-list character, and he was always very boring. And while he comes across still very hoity-toity, and I'm very godlike in this, but at least, you know, it was interesting to see him as a character in this movie when he loses, not really necessarily loses the god. Does he lose his powers, or I don't know?
Yeah, he loses the hammer.
Yeah, so it was interesting to see him, you know, interact with, you know, normal people. And I know we've seen that many times before in other movies, but just at least within his character is interesting to see. And plus, one of the best things about this movie is Loki to begin with. It's, you know, his start, his shine, and he's the only thing that makes, you know, some of the other Thor movies even watchable.
Yeah, totally agree. And that the scene where with Hawkeye, for some reason it reminds me of that movie Evolution. Did you guys ever see that with David Duchovny and Julianne Moore?
No, I never saw that.
Or you saw it, Tony?
Yeah, I saw it.
God, I love that movie. Where it's just like
they kill all the aliens with Head and Shoulders.
Oh my God! Spoilers.
Yeah, but they're like in the middle of the desert with this like big quarantine tent, and I'm just like, oh my God, is this evolution? I was like, where's Orlando? Not Orlando Bloom, but Orlando Jones. And I'm just like, where the hell is Orlando Jones? But yeah, he never came out. But yeah, it was just. This was when I think that the studio kind of handcuffed Chris Hemsworth because, you know, like you mentioned, where he was, you know, he's drinking the beer. He's like, give me another. Like, he's more larger than life now. Like they kind of took the training wheels off of him, but it's fair because he wasn't really anybody that warranted that kind of trust, especially, you know, he didn't have any comedic chops when Thor was made. So nowadays he's hilarious, and now Thor is more enjoyable. He's so far in the wacky way where he's going to fit right in with, you know, the Galaxy, or oh my God, Guardians of the I'm the only one drinking. Guardians of the Galaxy.
Sure, we'll blame it on that.
I totally am. I'm almost done with this thing. The Guardians of the Galaxy cast. So he's a lot more enjoyable. Not so much like he is probably the worst part of Thor 1, which is kind of a bad thing.
Wait. You think Chris Hemsworth's the worst part of Thor 1?
Yeah, Thor is the worst part of Thor.
I don't know.
I don't know. Natalie Portman's pretty terrible in this movie, too.
Yeah.
One Kat Dennings.
She's... Oh, well...
Yeah. Everybody's pretty terrible.
You don't watch Kat Dennings for the acting. That's all I have to say. You don't. You just don't.
Yeah. Everybody's pretty terrible because Tom Hiddleston outshines everyone in the film. Like, he's just acting circles around everybody else in the movie.
Idris Elba should have been Thor. I think that would have been more enjoyable.
That would have been pretty awesome. At the end of this movie, the after credits scene is Nick Fury welcoming Eric, like the scientist dude, the Skarsgård guy. No. Selvage.
Yeah.
And the Tesseract's there, but Loki's, you know, controlling his mind. So it's like teasing the Avengers.
Right.
That was the first time we got the Game of Thrones White Walker eyes, right?
Yes.
People?
Yes. Yeah.
Yeah. All right, moving along.
Okay, moving along now to Captain America: The First Avenger. I would say that this movie, I'm just going to start it off here. All right. When this movie came out, I've always been a huge Captain America fan, like always been a huge Captain America fan. So I was very excited for this film, and there's a lot of things this movie does really well. And then there's a lot of things in this movie that just kind of don't work, especially now. This is another one of the movies that I don't feel like holds up to the standards that Marvel has set for themselves now, but at the time I thought was a kind of a fun take on the character. But there's too many things, and I understand why they did it, but there's too many things in the movie that drive me nuts watching it now. But I think the casting is perfect, just starting there. When Chris Evans was cast as Steve Rogers, I didn't know what I thought about it, because I was like, the guy from Not Another Teen Movie, and he played the Human Torch in the Fantastic Four movie. So I was like, I don't know about this guy being Captain America, but he kills it. I mean, it's absolutely perfect casting. The era, I liked that it's set in World War II. The special effects of making him look like a scrawny little dude, I don't think hold up very well, and didn't really look very natural then. But that doesn't even bother me, though. The thing that bothers me the most of the movie is how many montages there are. It's a montage fest. The whole movie is just montaging through different battles, and like him leaping into the camera a bunch. Like, it's just like leaping. Like, watch that movie in 3D and you just see his crotch coming at your face like a lot. It drives me insane.
Was there really that many montages in this?
There's a lot. It's like he gets together with his guys, and then they go montage through a bunch of battles, and then you're like, oh, now he's like a war-hardened veteran, and you're like, wait, you fought like 3 battles. You didn't even you didn't even fight Nazis. All you fought was like the science division, and
you just beat up nerds.
Yeah, you just beat up a bunch of nerds. And And it drives me nuts because, like, in the comics, like, he fought through World War II for like quite a long time, and in the movie they just like montage through some scenes, and then they build like a shrine for him in later movies in like a museum with like him and all of his men, and I'm just like, I don't know, man. They weren't even fighting the actual Nazis; they were just fighting the science.
Slow mo, like 300 style, right?
Yeah, but there's some really cool stuff. Like his costume is awesome. The shield is awesome. Like I love the shield. The shield, that's like the way. The polished look, like you can see the like the polished metal in it. I love that, like that style. I think the casting of all of the characters are great. Hugo Weaving is the Red Skull. I want to see him back so bad because at the end of the movie, he's just blasted off by the Tesseract, and like where'd he go? Like, I mean, I want to see him in Infinity War so bad, but I don't think Hugo Weaving will be back. But I have a feling that Red Skull might be back.
Why not Hugo Weaving?
What is he doing now? He doesn't want to do it.
Why not?
He hated the movie, didn't want to be a part of it, and refused to come back to the MCU afterwards, according to rumors and things.
God, what the hell else?
Money talks though, so you know.
Yeah.
He's missing out on that Disney money now.
Yeah.
But anyway, there's my thoughts. Back to you, John.
We'll go to Zuby because I'm still taking a nap.
It was okay. This was one of the few movies that I didn't see in theaters. I actually didn't see this until after the Avengers came out. So I can tell that I didn't really miss much when, because I saw Thor, then missed this one, saw the Avengers, and I went back and saw Captain America, and I mean, it's okay. I don't really have many opinions on it where it was just
it's all right.
It's okay. 3 out of 10.
I also think that it sets up Bucky and Cap's relationship really well. So it works without this movie, without setting up their relationship. Like Winter Soldier and Civil War don't work as well.
Fine. Yeah, that is true. That is true. But I don't know. I just I don't have many other opinions about it. It's I liked Chris Evans as Captain America. I still do. He did really well in the movie. It's just it's a forgettable movie in my opinion.
Oh, for sure. I think it is too. I'm just a big Captain America fan, so I watched it way too much. And I won't lie, I Phantom Menace the hell out of that movie. I used to like talk so much shit about how great it was, and like get in debates with people that said it wasn't very good. And now when I watch it, I'm just like, it's really not very good.
Hey, dude, pod racing is the shit. So I will totally back up on that.
I'd rather watch Phantom Menace than watch Captain America.
I'll disagree on that one. I'll disagree.
As the resident Phantom Menace apologist, he will disagree. Wow. Okay. Well, this let's put it in context. So this movie was directed by Joe Johnston. He did like Jurassic Park 3.
Oh God, that's why it was terrible.
Hold on. Let's see here. Honey, I Shrunk the Kids. The Rocketeer, Jumanji, October Sky.
The Master. Oh shit.
Wow. Yeah, actually, he did some good stuff. The Wolfman.
Hidalgo.
Oh yeah.
My boy Aragorn.
I literally forgot that Tommy Lee Jones was in this movie.
So did I.
Wow.
Yeah.
But yeah.
Yeah,
like you said, Tony, freaking Hugo Weaving was amazing. This is where we got Haley Atwell, Agent Peggy Carter, who unfortunately no one watched Agent Carter, because you can't spin off Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. because no one cares about Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. So, not the best thing to spend your money on, but it was fine. I liked his little the romance between the two. We also got Natalie Dormer was in this movie from Game of Thrones. But all forgettable. It's just like the only thing
who was she in that movie?
She was just one of the agents.
Yeah, she's just like the cute girl that hits on Steve Rogers.
Yeah.
Oh. Okay.
So yeah, it's like the only thing that sticks in your mind is his kind of little origin story, the bad CGI, and coming from a director that directed Honey, I Shrunk the Kids, I would expect some better CGI.
Hey, it's not like he's the one making the CGI. Come on.
But he still has to approve it.
The only thing I blame the director for the many montages in the film. Outside of that, I mean, I feel like the characters, everybody there wasn't really like a bad performance. They were just like, it was just a forgettable story. It's like everybody was kind of doing all they could to like keep this thing going, but
yeah.
Well, let me ask you this, Tony. You may know this question. Which had more montages, Captain America or Rocky IV?
Wow. I don't know. It could. They're very, very close. Maybe Rocky IV. They had a lot of montages.
Rocky IV was like an hour of montages.
That's how I feel like this movie is. I feel like this movie is just like an hour of montages.
Like crotch montages, at least. You know.
Yeah, just him jumping with giant explosions in the background a lot.
You don't get that in Rocky IV.
Yeah, you don't. Yeah, there's no explosions in Rocky IV.
At least it wasn't explosions up front, you know, it was in the back. But yeah, it's forgettable. Sorry. I'm 12. Moving along. Fuck Captain America. Moving along, Tony.
At the end of Captain America, the after credits scene is the scene from the Avengers, which is Nick Fury giving Captain America his assignment. You know, he's now awoken into the present. And then after that, though, right after that scene, they actually, in theaters, they played the trailer for the Avengers. And I lost my shit. Because I was like big, you know, I still do it. I still go to the very first viewing, which now is like Thursday nights at like 7 o'clock. It used to be, you know, midnights. And I'm pretty sure the Avengers was a midnight showing. I can't remember when they started doing that. But I think the Avengers was a midnight showing. So it was like super late. You know, it was like, you know, it's like 2 a.m. or something by this point, and they played the trailer for the Avengers on the big screen. It was like the first time anybody saw the trailer. So like that was amazing. But yeah, rolling in straight into the Avengers. Man, this movie was everything that it was like promised to be, you know? Joss Whedon on board to direct, and then you know, with the recasting, you know, there were like questions. You were like, oh, I don't know if it's going to be as good as what I want it to be. You know, they've recasted the Hulk and you know, Loki's the villain, and I was like, okay, I like Loki, but I didn't like the Thor movies, so I just don't know. You know, I really didn't know going into it. The trailer would look great, but I just had my reservations, I guess. But I think it opens with. Is it open with that Black Widow getting the Hulks? Like recruiting Bruce Banner?
Yes. No, I thought it opens with them with the Tesseract in the correct. What do you get? That one building they have to evacuate because Loki shows up and
Hawkeye's already turned at this point, right?
Yeah.
Right. I think. Oh yeah. You're right.
Yeah.
Yeah. They just set up the villain immediately. Right. Look at you.
Yeah. I just going back to what you said about the after credit scene for Captain America, that was like, you know, at that point we're all vetted and we all know like you have to stay till the end. And oh yeah, that theater erupted like their team won the Super Bowl or, you know, whatever. It was like New Year's in that theater. And it was more so than anything that happened on screen for regular Captain America, but basically the lead up to the Avengers, and just oh my god, nothing will ever, I don't think anything will ever compare that feeling and that emotion that you got for seeing these on screen for the first time. And you know, and we're getting Avengers 3 basically 3.5 because I argue that, you know, Civil War was basically another Avengers movie, but just seeing that for the first time, everyone went nuts. What did you say, Zuby?
This was like the ultimate nerd movie in the terms of, oh, who could beat who, you know, Thor versus Iron Man or Captain America versus, you know, the Hulk or whatever. You know, it even though it didn't really answer the questions, we got to see, you know, those fight outs actually occur and happen, which was, you know, it was like a
little head to head, right? We got Thor versus Iron Man, which was awesome, and Thor versus
the Hulk.
The Hulk, yeah, there was a little bit of these little, superhero and superhero crime, and Marvel's just like, Tom Hiddleston, he's a great villain. We don't really know what else to do, so tear a hole in the sky and crazy aliens, and just put Loki as the focus, and it turned out really well.
Yeah, but you don't think that they didn't know what they were doing? They were setting up, Infinity War right then and there with the after credits scene for this film is Thanos, like, right. So they were setting up with the Chitala, right? Is what they call them? That's the alien race.
Chitauri.
Yeah, Chitauri. Yeah. So like, I feel like they knew which direction they were heading in. I just don't think they realized how long it was going to take them to get there. Because I think everybody thought Avengers 2 was going to be Thanos at that point, but apparently not. Which
at this point,
I'm glad.
At this point, do you think that like Kevin Feige and just kind of the Marvel, hive mind, for lack of a better word, were kind of honing that Joss Whedon was going to be the future of this franchise?
Yeah, I think that's exactly what they thought. I think that Joss Whedon was their plan. He was their guy. He was going to get them to Infinity War, basically. I think he was going to be kind of the showrunner from there as far as the Avengers were concerned. I'm glad that he's not, though. I'm glad that he's not. I didn't care for Avengers 2 all that much, but that aside, I absolutely love the Russo brothers. Like, I'm glad that he's not, only because he's not dead. The Russo brothers have just changed the entire platform now. Like, I mean, Winter Soldier and Civil War are my two favorite films out of the entire franchise. And the fact that they're the ones heading Infinity War, I'm just so thrilled with it, just because of what they were able to do with Civil War and make a movie that had all these characters on it, like feature all these characters, but not feel like it was anybody's movie. Like, it still feels like a Captain America movie, even though it's kind of an Avengers movie. And I love that they're able to do that. And I love that they're heading the Infinity War, but a little bit of a side rant there, I guess. But Avengers, the first one, though, I mean, what Joss Whedon did with it is perfect. It's an amazing movie. I love the introduction of all the characters. I love that when at first they feud, they don't get along. And then you get that awesome, like the freaking shield helicarrier when it lifts out of the water, and you got you got Bruce Banner and Steve Rogers, like they're both standing there next to each other, like, both kind of new to this whole world, and the shield helicarrier just lifts up out of the water. Like, blew my mind, because like I love the shield helicarrier so much, especially in the Spider-Man like 90s animated series. Like, there's always the shield helicarrier like always flying over New York. Like, so I loved that. I loved like when Loki comes and he's got like Hawkeye like all mind tricked, and like Hawkeye shoots that arrow and it just perfectly hits the engine and blows it up. Like, I love all that sequence, and Loki gets caught like on purpose. Like, there's so much good writing there. Like, just action, reaction throughout the whole film, just keep you like on the edge of your seat. It's a perfect popcorn blockbuster movie that has just enough depth to keep me interested.
Zuby, what were some of the greatest moments and greatest memories from the first Avengers?
I mean, I definitely loved the Thor versus Hulk fight. That was a lot of fun. When you get to see the Avengers first start to try to come together on the helicarrier or whatever it's called, was a lot of fun. And then, of course, everybody's favorite scene when Mark Ruffalo or Bruce Banner finally turns into the Hulk in New York. And, it just sort of gives you nerd chills down your spine. And, even to this day, it's still a really awesome scene of just when they're all together fighting, and it's just, really heightens the emotions and the mood of it. And, the thing that's sad about it, we've become so used to those kind of scenes and things like that I'm hoping that this new Avengers is going to at least try to recreate or still make you feel like that, where I hope we're not too emotionally dull for it now.
Sure.
But no, it was definitely an enjoyable movie. I mean, I know I saw this in theaters, and it's like I said, I think we all geeked out during it, and it was just as Tony's been saying throughout the whole show, it's just been, we've been waiting for this moment. It's been coming for years, and it felt like forever, because what, Iron Man came out in 2008 and this was 2012. We had to wait 4 years. Oh my God, that felt like forever.
It wasn't like 2 movies a year like now. Like we're just
yeah, now we're just spoiled. Now we're spoiled with it.
Yeah. Now it's like, oh, you got the Hulk and Thanos fighting. Who cares? Are they wearing, tutus? Like, we've seen it all at this point. So I feel so bad for the next Marvel creators at this point. But yeah, and it's so funny because like you said, the fan favorite part of the Avengers is when Bruce Banner turns into the Hulk. It's just like everyone thought the Hulk was the worst part of the whole MCU to this point, but they made it so cool. Like Joss Whedon's writing was just so snappy. He let his writing style to the MCU, not so much to the DCEU, but more of the MCU. So I wish they would give him more due. And I know he has Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. And Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D., say what you will, it has some snappy dialogue. It has some fun situational scenes. This is basically his Firefly, although his brothers, Jeb Whedon's kind of taken over. You could kind of see the dips and the peaks and the valleys.
He's got
when
Batgirl.
Joss gets. What's that?
Joss Whedon's directing Batgirl.
Yeah, but but there's a whole other show. But the DCEU, I don't know if that's part of the DCEU or not. But that's
they
just
such
scratched
it, right? Like they kind of they're just doing whatever they want now. They're just like, this movie's got continuity, this one doesn't. So I don't know where it's gonna fall.
Which is so horrible. Like, yeah, we're gonna get Suicide Squad 2 that no one cares about, but we're also gonna get Wonder Woman 2, which is incredible. And it's just like,
I still haven't seen Wonder Woman. I'll see it one day eventually.
Spoiler alert: it's good. I don't know, Tony. No,
it's good. It's good. I think it falls apart at the end, but it's good.
You were making I just smelled a fart face, so I was like, oh shit, no.
I don't think it's as good as people say it is, but I think it's really good.
It's pretty good.
I think that I think it falls apart in the end, and it's so good until the end. That's my problem. I hate the final, I hate the video game boss battle at the end.
Well, that's unfortunately
part of all the DC. That's been like all the DC movies.
Exactly.
Yeah,
Batman v Superman and Justice League, which I do have to say I really enjoyed Justice League.
I haven't seen Justice League yet. When you do that,
when you watch it, just watch it with extremely low expectations.
Right,
and you'll definitely enjoy it.
That's why I haven't seen it yet, because I'm such a geek that I'm just like I know I'm just gonna hate it, so I'm just gonna wait forever and then wait till the hype is gone and then I'll go watch it. I don't know.
Well, I will say
Batman v Superman is basically Scott Pilgrim versus the world, right? It's just like, oh my god, they should have just inserted health bars.
Oh, God.
So it would have been better.
I will say this, and I know we're going a little off topic. I saw Justice League, and then the next week I saw Thor Ragnarok. I enjoyed Justice League way more than Thor Ragnarok.
Ooh. Wow. Well, coming from someone that hasn't seen either, I will take your word for it.
I will say Thor Ragnarok, I almost fell asleep during the movie. That's all I got. Yeah.
So I would say that Thor Ragnarok's not sleep worthy, but I will say that that's another movie where I think that it's not as good as what people think it is. It is one of the highest rated MCU films, though.
Well, and I'm not trying to say it was a bad movie or anything. It was any part that didn't involve Thor and friends, where it was just the bad guy. Yeah. I was bored to tears.
Lame. Yeah, it just comes to a screeching halt every time.
Yeah.
And we'll get there, guys.
Yeah, we'll get there. But yeah, back on the Avengers. Mm-hmm. Yeah, I don't really know if you have anything left to say about it. But Thanos was introduced right there at the end.
Yeah. Well, I mean, before the end, that's when you like you said, it was a complete setup for the rest, for Infinity War, whether they had Joss Whedon, like you said, in mind or not. And and all up to the point where when Tony Stark goes up into space, haunting him, that's kind of been his arc through this entire thing, which, you know, on the road to infinity, you know, we will see if that pays off, in Tony Stark's eventual demise. They're killing someone, folks. Yeah. They have to be.
Whether man, I can spoil some stuff for you right now, because they posted a stupid picture of all the characters together wearing a device, and I know what it all means, and I'm upset about it all.
Boo. Nah, we won't.
But they carry on, or they set up more than that. You know, they set up the character dynamics between Tony Stark and Steve Rogers, and how they really don't get along, but they'll get along. They'll work together because they understand that they have to, you know, for the greater good, but they really don't get along. Like they're completely two different people. So like they set that up. They set up Loki being, you know, the fact that kind of Loki's working with Thanos. So like, that's always just like this lurking thing in the back of your mind. They set up kind of a relationship, maybe you can read into it a little bit with
Banner and Scarlett Johansson.
Yeah, it's like, I feel like it's subtly there, but it's not really there in that. But it's kind of like when you watch it now, you're like, oh, okay, I can kind of see it, but at the time it wasn't necessarily there. But I think the movie does a lot of good to set up, like, there's a lot of major events, and it kicks off the, you know, I know we're not really talking about the Netflix stuff, but it really kicks off the Netflix stuff too, because the event in New York City is a big theme of the first season of Daredevil. It's like kind of playing in the background the whole time. And
Jessica Jones.
And Jessica Jones. So it changed the world forever, and it changed the cinematic world forever too, like movies. Like this, they proved it can be done. You can do movies in an episodic way, and people will care and watch all of them, so that way they don't miss anything leading up. Like, and you don't need to spell it out for them either. You don't have to go, hey, you got to watch Captain America because it's part of this bigger picture. Like, you don't have to spell that out. People know now. Like Iron Man 3's box office was like insane. I think did it do better than it did way better than I know that they expected it to, because it came out right after the Avengers.
Iron Man 3 did like 1.2 billion.
Right, because people were like, we need to know what's going to happen next after that, and then we're greatly disappointed.
It subverted their expectations, right, Zuby?
Oh yes.
Yeah, like you said, episodic, but it was a perfect setup movie. But it was also a great standalone movie. You could watch the Avengers and just be happy by watching the Avengers. You don't have to. Right. I mean, of course you can watch everything else, and you should, of course, and you should watch everything else after. But you could just pop in the Avengers for someone that lives in Yemen that doesn't know what the MCU is. And I'm sorry if I offended anyone in Yemen, but they could watch it and just be like,
dare you?
Yeah, like you know,
right. Well, that's
all together.
That's something that I feel like the MCU has done well, is that for the majority of the MCU, you don't have to watch any of the movies. You can watch just that movie, like, and they stand alone pretty well on their own. I think that you know, you can watch Civil War without having to know who these characters are necessarily. It helps if you do, but I think it works as a one-off film. Like, for the most part, there are some things that definitely help if you watch other ones, but they've really focused pretty heavily on, let's just make a good movie and not try to set too much up for what's coming, because the only movie that really does that too heavily and suffers because of it would be Avengers 2, but I guess we'll get there.
Yeah, and Avengers usually are reserved for the spectacle movie, right? That's your shoving the popcorn in the face. That is your fill the stadium kind of movies. It's like everything before it, Iron Man, Captain America, Incredible Hulk, all those movies, they had movies, and you could watch them and be like, hey, that was a lot of fun. You go to see, they're like watching the Super Bowl or the World Series. Right. It's these movies where it's just like these big grandiose things, and arguably Captain America Civil War was that, but again it was just another Avengers movie. So that was the Avengers, so that's why people are just so excited when you get to this point. But now just looking ahead a little bit, it's a little bit strange. everyone that I've talked to, and maybe it's just because we're so spoiled, or just because we have comic book movie fatigue at this point, but everyone that I've talked to is just like, yeah, I'm totally amped for Black Panther more than Infinity War. And I think that's crazy because, yeah, Black Panther is going to be fucking awesome, but Infinity War is going to be all that. It's just going to be an amped up Avengers and everything, and Black Panther is going to be in it too.
Black Panther's projected at for like 120 million opening weekend, which is insane for such an obscure character. But he was set up so perfectly in Civil War. And can I just say that just the way that Black Panther looks, like just the film, the way that it looks is gorgeous.
Yes.
This is the first movie, like, and it kind of looks like, like Thor Ragnarok did, and like Guardians of the Galaxy Volume 2. It looks like that style, but they're doing it on Earth now. Like that style worked because they were in space, but now they're like, they're transferring that style to Earth, but they're using Wakanda as like the kind of the portal to like bring that style into the onto Earth. And I love it. I love the way that they look now. And I don't know what it is. It's like, because the MCU films have never been super colorful. They're actually, they get like from film critics and like just kind of film snobs, they get shit talked a lot for their color grading because they don't color grade their films like at all. They're really just regular like film stock graded, which is weird. And the new ones still are like, Black Panther still has that look of like not really color graded, but all the colors that are in it pop like off of it. I don't know what they've done to achieve this look, but I'm falling in love with it. I'm so stoked on it. And the soundtrack is kick-ass. That freaking trailer has Run the Jewels and it's so good. I want to see it so bad.
And Antoine Fuqua, right? It's just like he is not delivered anything less than stellar. So there's a lot of things. I don't want to be like, oh, you think Black Panther's gonna be better? You're a fucking idiot. No, it's like it's gonna be amazing. It's gonna be great. Antoine Fuqua is like one of the best directors of our time right now. Name a bad Antoine Fuqua movie. I can't. But it's just like, man, did you guys not see Avengers 1? Did you not get that feeling? Did you not see Guardians? Did you not see like Civil War? It's like this is the spectacle. Like those are these build-up movies now are seriously like the playoffs, and then we get the playoffs, and then we get these football reference, and then we get these big ass spectacles exploding in your face.
Something
Zuby.
that comic books have done for years, and especially Marvel and DC, does it too. But what comic books do every year or every other year or so is that they always build up to a big event. And like, whether it's Secret Wars or Civil War or Infinity War, right now DC has the Doomsday Clock event happening, which is like Justice League crossing over with Watchmen, which I'm a little weirded out by. And Watchmen's my favorite graphic novel, side note. But anyway, but I love comic books so much, and I think that we finally, I think it's just insane to me. Like as a kid, I would have never dreamed of a day like this. We are finally at a stage in like film history where you can do big events. Like Infinity War is an event. It's like the comic book event. It's the thing that brings all the characters and all the villains and everything together. It changes and it always changes everything. Like, so after Infinity War, what is Phase 4? And I guess maybe we'll talk about that when we get to maybe the end of this little series that we're doing. But it's a thought in my mind, like where are they going from there? And I think it's Secret Wars, but it's I just love that we're able to do major comic book events now. And people are into it, like general public, like people know who Thanos is. Blows my mind.
I mean, now we get to see, this is a whole other topic for a whole other time, but now we get to see Avengers versus X-Men, and that was
oh man,
yeah,
yes,
oh man.
Wait, is that actually happening?
It has potential to happen because Disney bought Fox.
Oh, that's right. So once
X-Men will be crossing over into the MCU. No, here's the thing, and I've brought this up a couple of times, and I don't know when the MCU or when Disney bought or not bought, but leased the rights to Spider-Man or whatever for Civil War. That happened like when Civil War was well into production and like almost done. They added the scene with Tom Holland, and then they just CG'd Spider-Man into the other stuff. Like, what is the possibility that Marvel just CGs in some X-Men characters in Infinity War.
Oh, well, I don't think in Infinity War, but because the deal isn't technically done. The deal won't be done for another like 6 months, but Infinity War 2 is completely rewritten at this point.
Yeah. That's how I feel. I feel like this one, like Infinity War 1 was probably probably not happening, but with Infinity War Part 2 or whatever their title is, which might be Secret Invasion or Secret Wars.
Right.
I think I think for sure. I think that movie is going to see maybe some X-Men characters at least CG'd in.
Oh yeah.
Just, in the background, introduce
Infinity War 1 is going to be a closure. It's going to be, the episode 8 of Star Wars. It's going to be closure where we're going to be trimming some fat. I know. But then Infinity War 2 is going to be where we're going to be adding some fat from the other franchises. We're even, in my opinion, we're going to get Deadpool in there, and he's going to make some kind of, self-aware, breaking the fourth wall reference. And we're going to get Deadpool in an Avengers movie. It's just going to happen, whether it be a cameo, even a commercial, talking about it. It's going to happen. Yeah. But
I would love to see a Deadpool commercial for Infinity War.
Yeah, I'd like something like that, but for him to actually be in the movie, no, I don't think it fits.
I think it works. I don't know. I think I can see Deadpool in an Avengers movie. Like, I could see him cussing and he just gets censored. Like, you actually beep him out and then he gets pissed off about it. Like, I think
Thanos is just punching his face right at the right times, right?
Right, right. I think it can work.
Hey, Thanos and Deadpool have a comic book story arc.
Oh yeah, definitely, because they're both in love with death.
With death, right?
Yeah.
Oh, I didn't know that. I never read that one.
Yeah,
it's fantastic. It's hilarious. Deadpool versus Thanos or something. It's so stupid because those two, like, you never think would have something in common, but it just works so great.
Yeah, it's a love triangle. That's great.
Yeah, because when you think of Thanos, you think of hot love, right? But all right, so that is the first that's phase 1 in our road to infinity. That was all 5, 6, 7. I don't even know how many movies we just went over, but that's
like 8
it was
films.
a lot. How many? It
was like 8, 7.
8. Oh my god! And yeah, we even talked about like the films that aren't even in phase 1, but still watch those when we post them. So I'm gonna jump over to my special guest, Black Raven, Second Sight Scotch Ale. I'm usually not a fan of Scotch Ale. As you can see, this bottle has been empty for a while. Wow, they did it right. It kind of drank like a brown. It had definite like Scotch Ale qualities to it, but it was so easy drinking, very smooth. And I'm not even just playing this up because I'm in love with Black Raven, because I am. But this was the best crafted Scotch Ale that I've ever had in my life. And I've had some pretty good ones in the past, and I'm like, even the good ones, I'm like, yeah, that was good. That was well crafted, but it wasn't the best. This one was pretty damn fantastic. I'm going to give this one a 4.0, which is big numbers for a Scotch Ale. Talking about the movies. So we wrap this up with some ratings. I'm going to throw it to our special guest. Thank you again, Zuby, for just seriously coming out of nowhere. And I think I gave you like 2 hours. I'm like, hey, dude, you want to be on a live show for like hours when it's like, midnight where you live? So thanks for being such a trooper. It's always a blast having you on DGT Live and on They Said We Said in general. So if you can, just kind of rate the phase 1 from a 0 to 5. Decimals are okay. I don't know if we want to do movie by movie because that's a lot to remember.
I think just rating phase 1 is kind of nice. I like that idea.
I think is appropriate.
Yeah.
Oh man. Rating it as a whole, shit, because there's some good movies and there's some like stinkers. I'd probably just give it a 3 out of 5.
Oh, wow. All right.
Yeah. Final answer.
You're right. It's hard. It's hard to rate them because there are some bad movies in there, but oh man, it's weird because it started off the whole thing. So it's
Yeah.
it's difficult. Like my emotions towards Phase 1 as a whole are pretty high, but when you look at the list of movies, it's like realistically, there's only 2 really solid good movies in that list.
Ooh, wow.
Like Iron Man and the Avengers are like
Good bookends.
yeah, exactly. Good bookends. The Incredible Hulk is just like, it's a movie I can still watch The Incredible Hulk and not hate it. Like I like that movie. And Iron Man 2 is I'd never watch Iron Man 2 and I never watch Thor, and I'll watch Captain America like if it's on TV. And so I don't know. I think I'll go 3.5 out of 5 because 70%. I don't know. It feels so low. Because I would give the Avengers like a 9 or a 10 or whatever. Your show's 5. I would give it like probably a 5 in itself. But yeah, as a whole for the whole thing, the other movies, the averages are bringing it down.
Yeah, pretty much.
I'll just have to say I disagree with you, gentlemen. Respectfully. But it did have some stinkers, and we'll argue which ones are the ones for me. Captain America was kind of just at the bottom. It was a little bit of too much of a snooze fest for me. A lot of montages, but I liked Iron Man. I liked Iron Man 2. I like Incredible Hulk, and then I just Thor. Give it, but nothing will still recreate. I don't know. I won't say nothing because the climax of Jurassic World was pretty great with the nostalgia heartstrings. As I was like, but it was like the Avengers, that emotion that created was replicated. So I'm going to go a little bit higher. I'm going to say 4.25 out of 5.
I like
Very
that.
specific.
It'd be easier if you just did things out of 10, but it's all right.
It would be. Maybe we'll do it out of 7. Just to be different, right? Everyone's got
out of 7. God, you're making me do percentages and be like, wait,
7 3/4.
5 out of 7.
My special guest again. So Zuby, Magic with Zuby. Where can everyone find you?
Yeah, they can find me at Magic with Zuby. At Magic with Zuby, and then magicwithzuby.com, and that's probably the best place to find me.
And
pretty much.
Mr. Tony Walters, where can the good kids find you?
They can find me at youtube.com/radentertainment and at radentertain on Facebook, Twitter, and Instagram.
Nice. And you can find me at Orders I've Done on Twitter. You can find me at John Dunning on Facebook and Instagram, and right here on They Said We Said YouTube channel, where I'm hanging out with at least this guy every week on DGT Live, talking now, Road to Infinity. This is our new Marvel series leading us up to the Infinity War saga. This is this week. I always like to give a little bit of channel news of what's on the docket coming up on DGT Live. We are just doing the one show this week because I have another obligation on Thursday night. I will be actually guesting. I'm not hosting. I will be guesting on Rogue Deck Builders. He's doing a little spotlight on this channel, so that's going to be interesting. It's going to be a lot of fun. I haven't done anything Magic Gathering in a while. So if you were, people that sling the cards, if you're curious as to why, maybe I will talk about that amongst other things. I will still probably be reviewing a beer because that's what I do. And so I won't be talking about movies or TV shows, but I will be talking about the little card game that people play called Magic the Gathering. So that's what's coming up this week. That's why we're just doing a single episode. Next week on what the subject will be. But yeah, we will be back next Monday for normal DGT Live proper. So again, I want to thank Zuby from Magic with Zuby, Tony, Walter from Rad Entertainment. I'm John Dunning, and we will see you guys next time.
Bye.